Hi there, and welcome to the Indie Pop Girl, the podcast where you'll find music chat, new releases, hidden gems, and nostalgic deep dives. I am back with the last episode in my Albums That Surprised Me series, and we are going out with a bang. This week, I'll be discussing I Don't Live Here Anymore by The War on Drugs from 2021. I think this episode is going to be a long one, so I hope you're ready. I Don't Live Here Anymore is the fifth studio album by The War on Drugs, and it was released on the 29th of October 2021 through Atlantic Records. The album was recorded over a 3-year period, and the production duties were handled by frontman, guitarist and songwriter extraordinaire Adam Grandiseel and the podcast regular Sean Everett. The record received widespread critical acclaim across the board and appeared on many lists from publications at the end of 2021. I Don't Live Here Anymore is the follow-up to the band's Grammy award-winning record A Deeper Understanding, which was released back in 2017. The album started to take shape following that tour in 2018, and by the time March 2020 came around, Adam and Sean had to separate due to the COVID pandemic. The recording resumed in October 2020, and that is the period when the album started to develop fully. Over the 3-year period, the songs went through several versions and transformations before Adam and Sean were totally happy with the finished product. When the album seemed to be complete and sent over for mastering, in true Adam fashion, and if you are a fan of the band then you will know that this is common, he decided to change the mixes of several songs on the record. Atlantic Records were forced to push back the release date due to the delay, and I saw an interview online that Adam and Sean spent a 12-hour period in Sean's studio to lay down the final finishing touches and ended up remastering the album themselves. If you are a fan of The War on Drugs, then you must be aware of Adam's meticulous approach in the studio. I think he disagrees with people calling him a perfectionist, and he is to a certain extent. But he has this natural gift. He will not rush the process for the sake of it. He takes his time and will only put out something that he is truly happy with. I guess having the time during the pandemic took a little bit of pressure off, but saying that, he still didn't make the deadline for Atlantic. I believe that they have a 2-album deal with Atlantic Records, so I am not sure if they re-signed with them or gone with another label, as they are currently working on album number 6. You know, I like to give some context and background before I start to dive into the tracks. Firstly, I can't believe that I am only talking about The War on Drugs until now. Yes, I have mentioned Sean Everett in previous episodes, and I have discussed him in detail during the Miley Cyrus review. And I have also mentioned The War on Drugs in patches and made references to them in other episodes if I feel I can make a connection. But I have wanted to talk about The War on Drugs for so long, and I can't believe that I have gone through 19 episodes before covering them. I have mentioned previously that they are my favourite band of all time, and I wanted to wait until it was the right opportunity to talk about them. So here we are. To close out this series is the perfect time to declare my love for them as a band and this wonderful record. 2021 was one of the most stacked years in regards to new releases for as long as I can remember. We were blessed with Chemtrails Over the Country Club and Blue Banisters by Lana Del Rey, Blue Weekend by Wolf Alice, which I've already covered on the podcast. We also had Pink Noise by Laura Mvula, Jubilee by Japanese Breakfast, Prioritise Pleasure by Self Esteem, Mercurial World by Magdalena Bay, and I Don't Live Here Anymore by The War on Drugs. All released in 1 year, and there are probably more which I have not given a shout out here, but you get my drift. I was exposed to so much music during this period, and it was difficult keeping up with the new releases. I was spending a fortune on vinyl and building up my collection, and I look back at this period fondly. There was something magical discovering these records and being exposed to new artists. I think I have mentioned before that I was working from home during the pandemic era, and I had a notebook full of artists and albums to check out. I remember seeing the artwork for I Don't Live Here Anymore when it was released, and it caught my attention. But I was playing catch up towards the end of 2021, and by the time December came around, Christmas completely took over, and I had a bit of a break with the new releases and just enjoyed what I already discovered. It was over the Christmas break when I started to catch up with the best of lists online from the critics and publications, and I kept seeing the artwork for I Don't Live Here Anymore pop up, and the description for the record really appealed to me and got me intrigued. And then one of my favourite music reactors on YouTube, Mike the Snare, who I have mentioned before on the podcast, dropped his 2021 favourites, and lo and behold, The War on Drugs made an appearance in his top 10 albums. He played a snippet of the title track, and I lost my mind. I quickly found my notebook and I scribbled it down to remind myself, Rach, will you finally listen to this fucking record? So, thank you, Mike the Snare, for giving me the kick up the arse that I deserved on that day and for introducing me to this wonderful band. I'm going to link his channel in my description, and this episode is dedicated to him. He is such a great guy with a fun sense of humour and creates amazing content. He is also a big Magdalena Bay fan, so his taste is just god tier anyway. But please check him out and tell him the Indie Pop Girl sent you. It was January 2022 when I had my first experience with this record. I will never forget that day. I always find January really hard. Christmas is over and the decorations have been put away. The house looks bare, and there isn't much going on in regards to new releases. But all of that was quickly forgotten when I decided to sit down properly with this album. You never forget those moments, and how something can come out of the blue and take you completely by surprise. I had no idea on that day when I pressed play on Spotify that this record and this band would change my life. I sat on the sofa with my earphones and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. As I was going through the tracks, I was just left speechless. The only way I can describe the experience is that the same thing happened with Blue Weekend by Wolf Alice just a few months earlier. Both records are like a greatest hits compilation. It's just banger after banger. And records like this don't come around very often. I know music is subjective. You might be listening and you have heard this record and it didn't really float your boat. But I hope at the end of this you will give it a listen again and hopefully something will click. And if you are new to the War on Drugs, well, you are in for a treat. I was about halfway through the record and I was already thinking about the vinyl purchase. And when I reached the end of the album, I started to play it again. I just couldn't get enough of how good these songs are, the sonics and the production. I remember having a hyper moment when I saw my husband later on that day. I ran into the kitchen where he was and I started rambling. There is this band that I've discovered and I think you'll love them. And he was like, calm down, what? I was rambling about my new vinyl purchase and you've got to listen to this band. You will love them. I know you will. He was like, yeah, okay, whatever. He knows what I'm like when it comes to music. And I have done it so many times now. He is used to my hyper behaviour when I have discovered gold. He went away and listened to I Don't Live Here Anymore. And the rest is history. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, I will not be playing clips of the songs, so if you are curious, then please support the artists I cover by streaming, downloading, or buying physical copies. Thank you. Track 1, Living Proof. This was the lead single and kicked off the album campaign on the 19th of July 2021, together with the album announcement. Looking back, I think this was a bit of a brave move to release this as the lead single. At the time, I wasn't familiar with their back catalogue, so I didn't have any expectations for the opening track. But what a beauty Living Proof is. If you are familiar with this record, then maybe it would have made more sense for the title track to be the lead single, as it's probably more faithful to the overall sonic sound of I Don't Live Here Anymore. I would say it's quite similar to what Wolf Alice also did in 2021. They dropped The Last Man on Earth as their lead single for Blue Weekend, and both bands made the creative decision to opt for a slower, sombre tone. We were still going through the pandemic during this period, and I definitely think that was reflected in the music being released during that time. Living Proof sets the tone in a very unexpected way. Instead of the usual driving war on drugs sound of steady drums, chiming guitars, wide open synths, this song strips everything back. Musically, it's sparse, almost fragile, built on soft finger-picked acoustic guitar and piano with faint organ textures within the production. The tempo is unhurried. It has a relaxed, calm state, and Adam's voice is recorded in a way that feels intimate, almost like he's singing right in your ear. Adam's delivery is vulnerable, cracked in places, full of weariness, but also acceptance. Lyrically, this breaks from the conventional song structure. I talked about in my Bon Iver episode covering Sable Fable that the track Awards Season also follows this pattern. I didn't make the link in that episode, but listening to this track again in preparation for this episode, I feel like Living Proof is connected to Awards Season in my own musical universe. Both songs share the same confessional style in the lyrics. The introspective tone stripped back in the instrumentation, and the words read like poetry. Adam is searching for clarity and strength after a period of struggle. And the title itself, Living Proof, suggests survival, evidence of resilience, even in imperfection. There is no pre-chorus, no chorus or bridge. Adam is pouring his heart out, and his battle with panic attacks and crippling anxiety has been well documented, especially during the Lost in the Dream era back in 2014. The line that broke my heart is right at the end, where Adam sings, "But I'm rising and I'm damaged." What an emotional gut punch. It feels like a direct acknowledgement of that tension. He's still scarred, still affected by what he's been through, but he's also moving forward. The imagery of rising suggests healing, growth, and even resilience, while damaged refuses to sugarcoat the lingering impact of anxiety. Instead of hiding behind layers of reverb and atmosphere, as sometimes he has done before, Adam lets his voice sound fragile and exposed. That vulnerability makes lines like this one land with extra weight. And to end the song with that gorgeous guitar solo, sign me the fuck up. It is stunning. Overall, Living Proof feels like the band opening a door into a very personal headspace before letting the bigger, more expansive songs flood in later. I will never forget the first time I experienced this track live. It was in April 2022 at the O2 Academy in Birmingham. You could hear a pin drop, and of course, I sobbed my heart out. Track 2, Harmonia's Dream. This Grammy-nominated song was co-written with keyboardist Robbie Bennett, and what an anthem it is. The song title is a reference to the cult krautrock group Harmonia. It's lush but anthemic and so uplifting. I urge you to listen to this while driving, and it just hits whatever the weather, whatever the season. It just puts a smile on your face, and I remember that dark winter's day in January 2022 when I experienced this song for the first time. It absolutely blew me away, and in the instrumental break, I was moved to tears. I just felt so overwhelmed by what I was hearing. It was exactly what I needed at that time, and I can see why the song has become a fan favourite. This track definitely feels like the curtains have opened wide. That driving beat and widescreen quality of the instrumental and production. There's a hypnotic repetition in the rhythm, like being swept up in a dream you don't want to end. I can't talk about this song without mentioning that killer synth line riff that Robbie wrote at 2 a.m. in a studio in Brooklyn. Adam witnessed this in real time, and I bet that was such a special moment. That synth part just elevates the song to the next level. And this is what I love about the War on Drugs so much. Yes, they are indie rock, but I love how Adam embraces the synths. How they blend the Americana indie sound with synths and electronica is their greatest strength. I have never seen a live band that uses so many keyboards and synths on stage. And I have seen Depeche Mode, The Human League, OMD, Pet Shop Boys, all the great synth pop acts, but the War on Drugs take the cake for the amount of equipment on stage. And that is not even taking in account the huge amount of guitar pedals and sample triggers that Adam uses on stage. And yes, he uses them all. They have somehow made the song even better live, and it is completely elevated by new live member Eliza Hardy-Jones. And experiencing this track in a live setting is something else. Standing on the barrier at Liverpool University last year screaming, "You're on your own," with my husband and the other fans was such a cathartic and euphoric experience, something that I will never forget. I think the song will remain a staple in their future live shows, and if you are curious, check out the Live Drugs Again release from last year. It fucking slaps. Track 3, Change. You could say that Change displays the classic War on Drugs ingredients: shimmering guitars, steady backbeat, and layers of synths filling out the soundscape. It has that open road feel that they do so well. And I know I mentioned Harmonia's Dream is perfect for a drive. Well, you can't go wrong with putting this record on top to bottom and just lose yourself in the gorgeous instrumentals. Adam could be singing the contents of the phone book or something for all I care. When the production is so crystal clear like this, and the instruments are all doing their own thing, but it all blends and works in perfect harmony. Change is warm and textured, but they're not going for euphoria here. Adam explained in an interview with Zane Lowe that the song is about moving into a new chapter gracefully and to accept the mistakes and the difficult times. And the introspective nature of the lyrics reflects in the relaxed pace of the song. There is something really comforting about this song in particular, and the whole album, to be honest. Change is a song that always gets me through difficult periods, and it never fails to deliver. Adam's love for Bob Dylan is evident in this song. He declares his love in verse 3 with the lines, "There are so many ways our love could make it through, but it's so damn hard to make that change." Adam's phrasing and vocal delivery is very reminiscent of Bob Dylan, especially with the "but it's so damn hard to make that change" line in particular. Dylan is also referenced in the next line of "Maybe I was born too late," which I assume is a reference to Dylan's Simple Twist of Fate. Bob Dylan is a huge inspiration to the band and with Adam in particular, and this won't be the last Dylan reference that is made on the record. I can't talk about Change without mentioning the outro. That piano. God damn. You want it to go on forever and ever. And we're talking about a 6-minute song here, but it feels so short. That outro is what makes me so passionate about music. The amount of times that I have teared up listening to this. There are no lyrics, just Adam and the boys take you on a beautiful journey, and fucking hell, I would love a 20-minute version of this song because that outro is something special. I know people compare the War on Drugs to Dylan, Bruce Springsteen, Tom Petty, etc. But with this song, the first band that came to mind was Roxy Music. The outro to Change instantly reminded me of the outro to Roxy's More Than This, especially in the way the drums carry that steady, almost floating groove. Like Roxy at their best, it creates this dreamy, bittersweet atmosphere. And I think that shows how the War on Drugs tap into that world of sophisticated art pop textures while still sounding completely their own. Both songs share a wistful, unresolved feeling, and neither ends in a grand climax. Instead, they leave you with a sense of open space and lingering emotion. Track 4, I Don't Wanna Wait. We take a bit of a sonic turn with I Don't Wanna Wait, and if you are familiar with this song, then you will know what I mean when I say that the drum machine that starts the track is very Phil Collins coded, especially in The Air Tonight, in the way that this track slowly builds with that slow burning dramatic tension that Phil Collins mastered. It's moody, atmospheric, and ever so sexy in the way how the dark, spacious synths feel like a sense of tension. It channels a slow burn anticipation, and this track hits the spot on a late night drive. I have heard Adam mention Phil Collins in the past, and I read that Phil's But Seriously album was one of the first records he bought as a teenager, so it's obvious that Adam is channeling his inner Phil Collins on I Don't Wanna Wait, even down to the processing of Adam's vocals during the intro. It sounds like an effect of some sort. I don't think it's a vocoder, but whatever is being used, it works to the maximum effect on a song like this. This track is definitely a vibe, and like Harmonia's Dream, it has become a regular staple with the drug set list. Lyrically, I would say that this song is open to interpretation, which is a common trait of a lot of Adam's lyrics. But if you connect to it, you can interpret the song as you see it. And to me, I think this song is about a romantic relationship, the longing and misunderstanding, and the messy push pull of love. Adam often writes in a way that feels like fragments of inner dialogue or emotional snapshots rather than clear narratives. That openness is part of why people connect with his lyrics. They invite personal interpretation, and the instrumental tells that story. It's so full and rich and packed with emotional power. Track 5, Victim. Talking about vibes with the previous track, Victim is also a complete vibe, and I lost my shit the first time I heard it. I've read a mixed reaction to this with some of the fan base, and whatever floats your boat, but for me, I fucking love this song. Victim is urgent, pulsing and restless with that driving bass line. It's driven by so many synths and sounds in the production, and the galloping drum beat gives it a tense momentum, like the track is trying to speed up. It's really unique. If you are a regular listener to the podcast, then you already know by now that I fuck with anything that is synth driven, and this track is totally driven by the synths, and I would describe it as a straight up synth pop song. There is guitar in the mix, but Adam and Sean have cleverly balanced it with the electronic production, and it just sounds awesome. There's a bit of nervous energy in Victim, which contrasts with the calmer flow of the earlier songs. But at the same time, there's catharsis in how driving and alive it sounds. The song opens up with the line, "I surrender, baby, help me understand. I've given everything when I had to give," which I think ties in with the title track which follows. I love it when tracks reference each other and you can tie them together. Verse 2 opens up with the line, "I remember walking through fields of glass. I remember darkness overhead." I think the imagery is surreal, almost apocalyptic. Fields of glass conjures fragility, sharpness, danger. The darkness overhead could suggest a looming anxiety or depression, like a storm cloud hanging over the romantic relationship. This line in verse 2 that I'm describing sums up Victim perfectly as a whole. The fields of glass represent the cold, icy synths in production. That colossal piano riff also comes across icy, but with so much energy and urgency. The mix is tight and claustrophobic. Adam's delivery is tense, almost restrained, as if he's tiptoeing through those metaphorical fields of glass and chasing everything through the dark. There is darkness in Victim, but the lyrics are texturally supported by the production choices. It makes the track feel colder and more paranoid than the tracks around it, which is why it stands out on the record. Especially in the bridge, when Adam comes in with that insane guitar solo. I've never heard a solo like it, but in this song, it just works so perfectly and adds to the tense atmosphere. I love how they took a risk with Victim and made it into a sexy synth pop banger. And when that blast of harmonica comes in over the wall of sound in the outro, it gives me the chills every single time. I mean, who does that? Adding a harmonica into a synth pop song just sounds like a complete disaster. But this is what I love about the War on Drugs so much. Adam embraces the keyboards just as much as the guitar and isn't afraid to take risks sonically. Victim is a masterclass in synth pop production, and I will always have so much love for this. Track 6, I Don't Live Here Anymore. The title track was released as a second single in September 2021, serves as the album's emotional and thematic centrepiece. The song features vocals from Holly and Jess from the indie pop band Lucius, who have also worked with Harry Styles and The Killers, and they have their own impressive discography. Immediately brighter than the previous track Victim, this has a big 80s inspired groove. It's got that radio friendly sheen, crisp drums, glossy sparkly synths, and those iconic backing vocals from Lucius. It adds a gospel like lift in the chorus. Production wise, it balances the War on Drugs widescreen Americana indie vibe with a more focused hook driven structure, and it's arguably their most pop moment, but it just works. The lyrics, which contain nods to Bob Dylan with the "a creature void of form" line, is a homage to Dylan's Shelter from the Storm. Adam also references Dylan again in verse 2 with the line, "Like when we went to see Bob Dylan, we danced to Desolation Row." There is also a callback to the previous track Victim with the line, "I never wanted anything that someone had to give." The title itself speaks to displacement, nostalgia, and change. It's about looking back at the places, both literal and emotional, you once belonged to, but realising you can't return to them. We're all just walking through this darkness on our own, capture a universal loneliness, even as the music sounds uplifting. There's a bittersweet push-pull here. The lyrics acknowledge distance, endings, and transformation, while the music feels euphoric and almost triumphant. The guitar work on I Don't Live Here Anymore immediately reminded me of Charlie Burchill from Simple Minds. Like Charlie, Adam isn't using the guitar to dominate the song with flashy solos, but to create a bright textural shimmer that lifts the whole track. Those chorus-soaked chords and chiming lines echo the widescreen, stadium-ready sound of Simple Minds classics like Alive and Kicking, Sanctify Yourself, and All the Things She Said. It's a subtle but powerful link, giving the song a distinctly 1980s arena rock feel, while still sounding very much like the War on Drugs. Simple Minds were masters at making rock sound cinematic in the 80s, and I think Adam and the band are drawing from a similar angle here: expansive, emotional, stadium-sized rock that still feels intimate. This track needs to be included on the new GTA game. Can you imagine how awesome that would sound on the rock radio station? Track 7, Old Skin. Old Skin brings the classic Americana sound. There is definitely some Springsteen vibes going on with this track, and I love the slow build. The gorgeous piano is backed by some organ, and the track slowly progresses, and eventually the release comes in to a full band sound. Adam's vocal performance here is one of my favourites. You can feel his pain and anxiety, and his vocals become more passionate as the track builds and explodes. Lyrically, Adam is trying to find acceptance and hope and change, and there is almost bittersweet calmness to Old Skin. There is some gorgeous imagery on display. I was born in a pyramid by an old interstate. And in verse 2, all the flowers lately in our window lay in disarray. The shadows are scattered like rings of gold. The lyrics read like pure poetry. And at the end, Adam surrenders to the feeling of whatever happens and will keep moving and holding on. It feels like a moment in clarity, a pause to acknowledge change. There is definitely some healing in Old Skin, and it's a song that I turn to when I'm struggling. The let's suffer through the change line is something that I personally connect to. Change is something that I find difficult. For me, it comes with a huge amount of anxiety about the unknown. And when you connect to something on a personal level, it's just so powerful. Old Skin grounds the second half of the record, especially coming after three huge bangers with more of a pop influence. Old Skin captures the themes and the lyrics perfectly. The message is crystal clear, and I don't think it would have had the same impact with a bigger production backed with a sea of synths and electronica. Track 8, Wasted. Wasted opens with a steady driving rhythm, acoustic strums layered with electric guitar flourishes, and a bright, consistent beat backed by synths. The feel is lighter and more free-flowing than Old Skin, almost stepping back into the open road after a moment of quiet reflection. The production is classic Drugs, wide, immersive, but not as dense as their earlier albums. The driving beat keeps things hopeful. It's a song of acceptance rather than despair. It carries that signature War on Drugs quality of melancholy wrapped in forward momentum. It's probably got the biggest chorus on the entire record. It's uplifting and catchy, and Adam really lets go here. On Wasted, Adam's vocal delivery feels strikingly different from much of the record. I can't tell if it is reverb or an echo effect, but it kind of sounds like he is drowning out within the production. It sounds like the instrumental is way higher in the mix on this track, and it's something that I only notice on earphones. It's a fun, upbeat track which works coming after the emotional Old Skin, and Wasted is perfectly placed for the emotional last two tracks on the record. I have read a mixed response to this track online, and I don't think this was performed live all that often during the tour and was quickly dropped from the set list. I am not sure if Adam has had a change of heart for this song now, but this can happen with tracks on records sometimes, but it doesn't mean it's a bad track regardless. Track 9, Rings Around My Father's Eyes. Okay, well, I hope I can get the words out here. This track, just wow. What a beautiful sentiment to write a song like this when Adam became a father for the first time in 2019. Adam explained that the song isn't a reflection on the relationship with his own father, but being a father himself and to be a protector for his son. Fucking hell. That's so beautiful, and I get choked up just thinking about it. I respect Adam with all of my heart for being so truthful and open about his own struggles with mental health. It's amazing how he has found peace and happiness with his partner Kristen and their son, and I think this song symbolises that love. Adam's vocal delivery is controlled and tender. It's like he's singing to his son, almost like a lullaby in its tone. Critics praised it as one of the most heartfelt songs Adam has ever written, and fans often mention it as a hidden gem of the record because of how quietly moving it is. Knowing the context of Adam becoming a father makes the song resonate even more. It's not just about his personal journey, but about legacy, family, and love. Track 10, Occasional Rain. What a perfect way to wrap up the record. It ties all of the loose ends nicely and wraps it all in a big bow. And what a beautiful way to end the journey of I Don't Live Here Anymore. Occasional Rain was a last minute addition to the album, and I saw a video on YouTube talking about the songwriting process, and the bare bones of the track is something that Adam completely forgot about and later discovered the file sitting in his Dropbox folder on his computer. He revealed that the album version is as close to a demo and not much tinkering was involved. I'm glad that they kept it organic as it has that live feel and it translates to the live setting with ease. In verse 2 of Occasional Rain, the come down can be read as a metaphor for depression, those inevitable low points that follow moments of energy or clarity. When Adam sings, "Don't let 'em stone you when the come down starts," it feels like a plea not to let the world's judgment or harshness define you during those vulnerable times. The surrounding lines about moving too fast and not knowing where it ends capture the exhausting cycle of mental health struggles, while the final question, "What would I find living this life without you?" roots the verse in love and connection, reminding us that it's those bonds that help us carry us through the darker spells. That sense of inner struggle carries directly into verse 3, where he describes being swept up in a world so strange, one you'd never even recognise. This feels like the disorientation of anxiety and depression being pulled into a mental landscape that feels alien even to yourself. The surrounding lines, "You've been moving much too fast, you never know just where it ends," reinforce that sense of mental health cycles, the exhaustion of going too hard and then crashing into a low. The line, "Now I'm a stranger and I don't know why," captures the essence of depersonalization, the way mental health struggles can leave you feeling disconnected from your own identity. Yet the verse doesn't end in despair when he sings, "Your words, they brought me out onto steady ground when I was wounded and shamed." It becomes a moment of rescue and renewal. Love, understanding, or even a simple gesture of kindness provides the grounding he needs to come back to himself. This track gives me so much healing and comfort. I've had my own personal battles with anxiety and depression, and I relate and connect to the message in the song so much. Occasional Rain has become such a special song for my husband and I, and we have adopted it as our song, and it was such a beautiful moment to hear it live together. What a beautiful, kind soul Adam is. To be able to find the strength, be vulnerable, accept the flaws, and to deliver a stunning record like this just proves his true talent. And this needs to be recognised, as I feel he doesn't get the praise or the credit he deserves. And to quote the final verse in the outro with his lyrics, "Feel the storm coming on, feel the darkness at your gate, live the loneliness of life. Keep on moving at your pace. Ain't the sky just shades of grey until you've seen it from the other side? Oh, if loving you's the same, it's only some occasional rain. If you are listening and are struggling, I hope you can find some comfort in this record like I have. Discovering this record and the band literally changed my life, and I hope it changes yours too. That is the power of music. Don't let the world define you by your low moments. The part of the rhythm of life, like occasional rain. I'm just going to mention the 2 deluxe tracks very quickly as they deserve a shout out. Oceans of Darkness, this is classic War on Drugs, and this version is a reworking from the performance they performed on the Jimmy Fallon show back in 2020. And there is also Slow Ghost, which is an absolutely gorgeous ballad with a little bit of hints of country. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Christmas. I don't know why, but I've added it to our playlist, and it's funny what songs remind you of. Both tracks are available as a 7-inch single included in the I Don't Live Here Anymore box set, and you can listen to them on all streaming platforms. I Don't Live Here Anymore received widespread critical acclaim upon release and received an average score of 85 on Metacritic. Enemy, Classic Rock, Pitchfork and Uncut all praised the record. They all complimented the songwriting and production. The record also landed on numerous year-end Best of 2021 lists from Billboard, The Guardian, Enemy, Pitchfork and Mojo. However, Anthony Fantano was lukewarm towards the record and gave it a 5 out of 10. He did like Wasted and Occasional Rain though, so that has got to be a positive. He has been critical of the war on drugs in the past, but at the end of the day, it's his loss. Music is subjective, but I found his review quite annoying, and I think it was just an excuse to be negative, which he does now and again. The War on Drugs isn't just another band to me. They're one of those rare artists who feel like companions through different stages of life. Adam Granduciel's music has this way of capturing restlessness, nostalgia and hope all at once. And every album feels like a new chapter in that journey. They may not always get the mainstream recognition they deserve, but to me, they're truly one of the most important bands of our time. Underrated, yes, but also one of the best live acts out there right now, alongside Wolf Alice and Magdalena Bay for me. If you've ever seen them on stage, you'll know what I mean. The sound opens up, the songs expand, and the emotion in the room is unforgettable. For me, I Don't Live Here Anymore is another reminder of just how much this band means and how their music keeps finding new ways to connect and inspire. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Please follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Threads at The Indie Pop Girl. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could follow and share, as it helps other music lovers to find the show. I'm also on YouTube. You can find me at the Indie Pop Girl Podcast, and I'd be grateful if you could subscribe, as I'm creating content, shorts and posting teasers for upcoming episodes. I've also created a public Spotify playlist and added some of my favourite tracks from the artists that I have already covered. and as the episodes grow, I'll be adding more. So if you are curious with any of the artists and albums that I have covered, please give it a listen, and who knows, you might find a new discovery. You can find me on Spotify at The Indie Pop Girl, and the playlist is called Favourite Tracks from Podcast Episodes. I'll be back very soon with a full review of The Clearing by Wolf Alice. I'll be dedicating a full episode of their new anticipated release, and I can't wait, so I hope you can join me. Until then, I'm Rachel, the Indie Pop Girl. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.